The morning sun gently peeked through the dense foliage of the trees that stretched along the main avenue of the city park. Birds chirped, creating a melody that accompanied the quiet passers-by. This place has always attracted people with its tranquility. But this morning, the park would witness an event that would change the lives of several people forever. Keanu Reeves was strolling through the park, enjoying a moment of peace that was so rare in his busy schedule. He loved nature. He loved the silence that allowed him to relax from the hustle and bustle of the metropolis. He walked serenely, looking at the trees that stretched upward as if trying to touch the sky. His thoughts were light, but this peace would soon be broken. Somewhere nearby, he heard the sharp and loud barking of dogs, which merged with the scream of a child. Keanu froze, his body tensed. He listened, trying to understand what was happening. The scream was coming from a small alley that led off the main path. Without hesitation, he rushed in that direction. As he approached, he saw a disturbing scene. A little girl, no older than 7 years old, was standing on the ground, pinned down by a pack of aggressive dogs. Her eyes were full of fear, and her face was covered with tears. The dogs growled and slowly moved closer, their teeth gleaming in the morning light. Keanu felt a wave of adrenaline. He quickly looked around and saw a sturdy branch on the ground that the wind had obviously blown off the tree. He grabbed it, clutching it tightly in his hands. All calmness disappeared from his face. Now there was only determination. He did not think about the risks. He only thought about how to protect the child. He came closer, picking up a branch and hitting it on the ground to attract the dog's attention. His movements were clear and decisive. The loud sound made the animal stop for a few seconds. Keanu used this moment to stand between the girl and the dogs. His posture was full of confidence, and even the animals felt it. The dogs began to disperse, and the growling gradually subsided. Keanu did not take his eyes off them, continuing to hold the branch in his hand. His determination and confidence eventually forced the pack to retreat. One by one, the dogs began to move away until they disappeared behind the trees. When the danger was over, Keanu returned to the girl. She was sitting on the ground, her hands shaking and tears streaming down her cheeks. Her clothes were slightly soiled, and there were several scratches on her legs. She was still shaking, but her eyes showed relief. Keanu carefully approached her and helped her up. He examined her carefully, trying to determine if she needed medical attention. The girl stood, barely able to stand. Keanu realized that she was too scared to walk on her own. He gently picked her up and held her close. She was as light as a feather. Her small arms wrapped around his neck, and her head leaned on his shoulder. She was still crying, but now her tears were mixed with a sense of security she felt next to him. Keanu decided that he needed to get her to the hospital as soon as possible. He started walking toward his car, which was parked nearby. All the way he held her tightly, protecting her from any external stimuli. He walked quickly but carefully, trying not to disturb her further. When they got to the car, Keanu gently put the girl in the passenger seat, fastening her seatbelt. He saw the gratitude in her eyes, but also the fear that had not yet left her after what she had been through. He got behind the wheel, turned on the engine, and headed for the nearest hospital. All the while, his thoughts were focused on providing her with help and comfort. The drive to the hospital was relatively short, but for Keanu, every minute seemed like an eternity. He looked at the girl, who seemed to be calming down a bit. Her hands were no longer shaking so much, and her breathing was steadier. He felt that he had done everything right, but the thought of why this child was alone in the park haunted him. Arriving at the hospital, Keanu parked the car and quickly got out. He picked up the girl again, carrying her to the emergency room. The medical staff immediately noticed the newcomers. Her examination began almost instantly. Keanu stayed by her side while the doctors checked her condition. The scratches on her legs were not serious, but the girl clearly needed time to recover from the emotional shock. At that moment, Keanu realized that this child, who had experienced such a terrible moment, needed not only medical care, but also support. He decided not to leave until he was sure she was safe. He felt responsible for her, and this responsibility was now driving him forward. After the doctors finished examining the girl, Keanu felt a little relieved. They confirmed that the scratches and bruises did not pose a serious threat to her health. However, they emphasized that the child needed peace and a warm atmosphere for emotional recovery. Keanu listened attentively, nodding in agreement, and stayed with the girl while she was transferred to a cozy room for rest. He decided not to leave because something about this little girl touched him. Lily, as the girl's name was lying on a hospital bed, clutching a small plush toy that the nurses had given her. Her big brown eyes were still filled with tears, but now they reflected not only fear, but also curiosity about who this person was who had saved her. Her gaze periodically stopped at Keanu, who was sitting next to her in a chair, looking out the window. He looked calm, but she could see the worry in his eyes. Some time passed before Lily decided to break the silence. Her quiet, hesitant voice echoed through the room, and although her words were simple, they started a conversation that would deeply touch Keanu. Lily began to talk about her life. She lived with her mom in a small rented apartment on the outskirts of the city. Her dad had left the family before she was born, and it was always just her and her mom. Her mom, Sarah, used to be a nurse, but due to a serious illness, she lost the ability to work. Sarah was struggling with a heart condition that gradually robbed her of her strength and forced her to spend most of her time at home. This made their lives very difficult. Lily was often left alone while her mother tried to rest or went through painful days. Keanu listened carefully to every word the girl said. His face didn't express surprise or pity, but his heart was full of compassion. He saw in this story the pain and loneliness that she was trying to hide behind her innocent words. She told it without complaint, as if it was her normal life, but to Keanu it sounded unfair and sad. The girl recalled how she and her mother used to sell their handmade jewelry at the local market to buy food and pay the rent. She said that she had to help her mother with her daily chores, as she often did not have the strength to even get out of bed. Lily didn't complain. She said it as if it was her usual duty. But Keanu realized that such responsibility was excessive for a child. As she told him her story, he felt that this meeting was going to be fateful. His rescue of Lily was not an accident. Her story revealed to him not only the difficulties of one family, but also a problem that affects many other people. He thought he had to do more than just help her now. His thoughts began to turn to how to change the life of this family. After Lily finished her story, there was silence. The girl had already begun to doze off, feeling safe next to Keanu. He got up from his seat, gently covered her with a blanket, and left the room. His mind was full of thoughts. He felt the need to act quickly, but at the same time he wanted to be sure that his help would be correct and lasting. Keanu decided that the next step was to meet with Lily's mom. He wanted to learn about her condition in person and find a way to help. He approached the nurse, who gave him the address of their home. The woman was a little surprised by his determination, but realized that his intentions were sincere. The next day, after Lily left the hospital, Keanu gave her a ride home. The girl was feeling a little better but still weak. When they arrived at an old, abandoned house on the outskirts of the city, Keanu noticed how modest the conditions were. He helped Lily out of the car and walked her to the door. Lily's mother, Sarah, met them at the door. Her appearance showed that the disease had taken a heavy toll on her life. She looked tired and exhausted, but her face radiated love for her daughter when she saw her. Sarah thanked Keanu for saving Lily, but her modesty and pride prevented her from asking for help. Keanu spent several hours with the family, listening to Sarah's stories and looking closely at their conditions. He realized that their situation required immediate intervention. Sarah told him how her illness prevented her from working and their financial resources were almost exhausted. She tried to remain optimistic, but her eyes betrayed deep anxiety. Upon returning home, Keanu began working on a plan to help the family. He reached out to his friends and colleagues for advice and resources. His first step was to arrange for Sarah to be examined at one of the best clinics in the city. He contacted doctors who agreed to examine her and develop a treatment plan. He also decided to help the family financially. Through his partners, he ensured that their rent was paid several months in advance and organized the delivery of food and necessary items. But this was not enough for Keanu. He wanted this family to have the opportunity to fully recover and start a new life. These actions were the first step towards the changes Keanu would bring to their lives. Sarah's condition gradually began to improve thanks to treatment, and Lily was able to return to a normal childhood, feeling supported and protected. All of these actions were not just acts of kindness. They were a reminder that even one person can change the lives of others if they are willing to act with love and sincerity. The days after visiting Lily and Sarah's home were a period of intense work and reflection for Keanu Reeves. Their story haunted him, and he felt that this meeting was important not only for them, but for him as well. It was an opportunity to use his resources and influence to do something meaningful. However, he realized that help could not be a one-time thing. It had to have a lasting effect. Keanu immediately reached out to his friends in the medical field to arrange for Sarah to receive quality treatment. He contacted a leading cardiologist in the city who agreed to take her case under his personal supervision. A few days later, Sarah underwent a full examination in a modern clinic. The results confirmed that her condition was serious, but not hopeless. The doctor suggested a treatment plan that included heart surgery and rehabilitation. Keanu covered all the costs associated with the treatment, but he went further. He provided Sarah with the support of a professional psychologist to help her cope with the emotional difficulties that accompanied her illness. Every step was carefully planned to not only heal her physically, but also help her regain her faith in herself. Keanu organized a whole support program for Lily. He arranged for her to attend a private school where the teachers had experience working with children who had experienced trauma. Lily was able to learn in a safe environment where she was surrounded by peers and people who could provide emotional support. In addition, Keanu provided Lily with art and music lessons, as she had always dreamed of drawing and playing the piano. He gave her a drawing kit and an electronic piano so she could develop her talents at home. These classes helped her restore her psychological balance and find new joys in life. When Keanu first visited their home, he saw how difficult the living conditions were. The apartment was old, worn out, and lacked the necessary amenities. He decided that this situation needed to be addressed immediately. A few days later, he found a new, spacious, and bright apartment for them in a safe neighborhood in the city. The move was organized in a few days. The apartment was fully equipped with furniture and appliances so that Sarah and Lily had everything they needed for a comfortable life. It was a new beginning that gave them a sense of stability and security. Keanu also realized that for lasting change, community support was needed. He reached out to local charitable organizations that could provide additional assistance. One of these organizations offered Sarah a training program in a light craft that she could do at home after completing her treatment. This gave her the opportunity to gradually regain her independence and earn money without overworking herself. A support group for children who have experienced difficult life circumstances was organized for Lily. She met other children who understood her experience, and it helped her feel that she was not alone. This situation inspired Keanu to create a larger project. He announced the launch of a program aimed at supporting single parents and children in difficult circumstances. The program included financial assistance, educational initiatives, and access to quality medical care. The first fund created under this program was named after Sarah and Lily. Its goal was to provide families with the support they needed to overcome difficulties and create a better future. The foundation started working not only in the city where Sarah lived, but also in other regions of the country. The story of how Keanu helped this family quickly became known. People admired his sincerity and willingness to act. This inspired many to do good deeds in their communities. Some people began to create their own initiatives to help those in need, while others simply became more attentive to others. Journalists who learned about the story published several articles that caused a great deal of publicity. However, Keanu avoided unnecessary attention, emphasizing that his actions were simply a manifestation of humanity, and anyone can do something similar. During these 2 weeks, Sarah and Lily's lives changed dramatically. They received not only financial and medical assistance, but also hope for a better future. Keanu became not only their savior, but also a friend who helped them believe in themselves. This story proved once again that even one good deed can change the lives of many people. Keanu has shown that kindness and compassion have great power, and his example inspires millions of people around the world. After 2 weeks of change, which began with the heroic rescue of Lily, the family's life began to take on new colors. For Keanu Reeves, however, it was only the beginning of a long journey he decided to take with them. Sarah, Lily, and even those who learned about this story experienced a transformation that went far beyond material assistance. It was a story of restored human dignity, renewed hope, and new opportunities. Sarah, who now had access to quality treatment, quickly felt her condition improve. Her cardiac surgery at the best clinic in the city was a success. The doctors were impressed by her resilience and positive attitude, which helped her recover faster after the complicated procedure. Rehabilitation was the next step. The program included physical therapy to strengthen her weakened body and counseling with a psychologist to help her cope with her fears and anxieties. Sarah began to return to the life she once enjoyed, and now she was even more motivated to provide a better future for her daughter. Keanu was relieved to hear about her progress through doctors and regular phone calls. He realized that he had been able to change the course of events in her life, but he also knew that the most important thing was to support her on her path to independence. For Lily, this period was the opening of a new world. Attending school, where she was warmly welcomed, was a real gift for her. Lessons now brought her joy, and her teachers helped her not only to learn, but also to regain her self-confidence. Lily began to make friends who shared with her the laughter and fun she had long dreamed of. One day, when Lily returned from school, she showed her mother her first drawings. A light of pride shone in her eyes, and Sarah looked at her daughter and felt for the first time in a long time that their lives were changing for the better. Lily's drawings became a symbol of her recovery, and Keanu, upon learning of her success, even organized a small exhibition of her work at school. This gave Lily the confidence that her talent and efforts were appreciated. The story of Lily's rescue and assistance to her family quickly spread through the local media. Reports on the case emphasized not only Keanu's heroic act, but also his subsequent actions, which inspired others. People began sending letters of support to the family, and some even offered to help. Local entrepreneurs, inspired by this story, came together to support the foundation Keanu created to help families in difficult circumstances. The charity events dedicated to Lily and her mom attracted a significant number of people who wanted to contribute to changing the lives of others. The new apartment where the family now lives has become a real home. A spacious kitchen, a bright living room, and a cozy room for Lily filled their lives with comfort that had previously seemed unattainable. Keanu made sure that the house was not only comfortable, but also full of warm details. Paintings on the walls, new furniture, toys for Lily. All this created an atmosphere of real family comfort. Lily especially loved her new desk where she could draw and do her homework. Looking at her happy daughter, Sarah felt that their life had a new meaning. She began to plan for the future with the confidence she had lacked before. One of the most important changes that this story has brought is a sense of community support. People who had once been on the sidelines now wanted to be part of the positive change. Local volunteers organized activities for children, inviting Lily to participate. Sarah received an offer to join a support group for mothers going through difficult circumstances. Keanu realized that it was important to integrate the family into a social environment that could support them even after his direct assistance ended. He continued to visit them, but now he saw more and more how they were coping with their challenges and gaining independence. A few months after Sarah's surgery and the changes in their lives, the family began to experience stability that had previously seemed impossible. Sarah was able to find work to do from home, and Lily looked forward to each new day at school. Their lives were filled with new possibilities, all thanks to Keanu's decision to act when it mattered most. As Keanu watched these changes, he realized that this story was not only an act of kindness, but also an important life lesson. He learned that even small steps can have a big impact if they are taken with sincerity and care. His actions became an inspiration for others, and this story will remain in the hearts of those who experienced it for a lifetime. Several months have passed since Keanu Reeves first met Lily and saved her from danger. Now, their lives have changed so much that the story is no longer just a coincidence. It has become proof of how one act of kindness can create a wave of change. Keanu continued to keep in close touch with Sarah and Lily, even as he gave them more space to build their new lives on their own. He would visit their new apartment from time to time, bringing Lily books, drawing materials, or just dropping by to see how they were doing. Sarah, who now looked much healthier, always greeted him with a warm smile and gratitude. Lily became a real little artist. Her drawings began to appear not only at school, but also at charity exhibitions organized by the local community. When Keanu saw her work, he invited Lily to take part in a program to support young talent, which he funded himself. This gave her the opportunity to receive art lessons from one of the best artists in the city. Sarah and Lily's story has become an inspiration to many. Keanu decided to expand his efforts by creating a charity foundation that specialized in helping single mothers and children in need. The foundation offered not only financial assistance, but also access to education, psychological support, and vocational training programs. One of the foundation's first major projects was the creation of a resource center in the city where families could get the help they needed. It offered classes for children, seminars for parents, and even consultations with lawyers for those facing financial or legal difficulties. The center became a place where people could not only get support, but also find a community that understood their problems. Journalists approached Keanu again and again to talk about his initiatives. Although he was not looking for publicity, his actions set an example for many. On social media, Lily and Sarah's story continued to inspire people. Some wrote that they began to pay more attention to helping others in their communities, inspired by Keanu's example. One of the articles published in a leading magazine was titled "Kindness in Action: How Keanu Reeves is Changing People's Lives." It detailed his efforts to create a real movement to help those in need. This publication attracted the attention of other celebrities who also wanted to join his initiatives. One of the biggest gifts Keanu gave to Sarah was to create the conditions for her own business. He found out that Sarah loved to bake before she got sick and decided to help her get back into it. He purchased the necessary equipment for her and even rented a small space near their home. Sarah started baking pies and cakes, which quickly became popular among the locals. Her little bakery not only brought in income, but also became a place where people gathered for a cup of coffee to discuss the news or just chat. Lily often helped her mom after school by decorating desserts or taking orders. This place became a symbol of renewal and new opportunities. Lily, thanks to Keanu's support and her new environment, grew more confident and open-minded. Her talent for drawing developed, and she began to dream of a career as an illustrator. One day, Keanu gave her a professional digital drawing tablet, and this became another impetus for her creativity. She participated in competitions, won awards, and even started receiving her first orders for illustrations. Her life, which was once full of difficulties, has now become an example of how support and kindness can change everything. For Keanu, this story became part of his own journey. He realized that his mission in life goes beyond his acting career. Helping Lily and Sarah was only the beginning of his work to make the world a better place. He continued to develop his charitable projects, involving other people in them. Keanu also started attending conferences and forums where he shared his experience. His words were always simple but profound. He emphasized that everyone can do something important, regardless of their resources or status. Goodness begins with a small act, he was fond of repeating. A year after the events in the park, Keanu met Sarah and Lily again. They invited him to a small party at their bakery to celebrate a year since their new beginning. Lily had drawn a picture for him that depicted the scene of their first meeting in the park. Sarah made his favorite pie, and all the guests gathered to thank Keanu for changing their lives. This moment became a symbol of how one chance encounter can change everything. Keanu left the bakery with warmth in his heart, knowing that his efforts were not in vain. This story not only changed the life of one family, but also inspired hundreds of people around the world to do good deeds. And this was Keanu Reeves' true legacy, to create a wave of change that will spread far beyond what can be seen or imagined.